developed by the B612 Foundation, named after the asteroid in the literary classic The Little Prince. The gravity tractor is gaining popularity due to the efforts of its chief advocates, two former astronauts, Ed Lu and Rusty Schweikert.
The gravity tractor is a very weak deflection concept, but it's very precise. And so we don't recommend using it for what we call the primary deflection. That is, to make the asteroid miss the Earth. But once you've done that with a kinetic impact, which is a very imprecise maneuver, then you come in with the gravitational tractor and you make a very precision adjustment on what you've done with the primary deflection.
The gravity tractor is one of the very few asteroid deflection mechanisms that is in any way realistic. The only two that are probably realistic right now are kinetic impactor, where you just basically run into the asteroid with a spacecraft, or the gravity tractor. Apart from those two, most of the rest of those are pretty much science fiction.
Using mostly existing technology and powered by a combination of ion engines and solar panels, the gravity tractor itself is about the size and weight of a golf cart. Not very large by spacecraft standards, but it's still big enough, according to its proponents, to finish the job after a kinetic impact.
Yes. Yes.
This asteroid is spinning around an axis or tumbling, whatever, and I come up with the gravity tractor and I basically park here. I want to pull it in that direction. So in spite of the fact that it's tumbling, I don't ever touch it. I just pull up in front of it, if that's the direction I want to pull it, and I just stay there while it's tumbling. Let's say if the asteroid itself is 300 feet in diameter, then we would want to hover something like 250 feet from the center of gravity of that asteroid. In other words, about 1.5 radiuses out from that tumbling asteroid. I don't let the gravity of the asteroid pull me in. I have to fire my ion engine thrusters off to the side so I don't blast it. And by doing that, I stay right there for a week, a month, a year, whatever it takes. Ion engines go for long, long periods of time. And now, because I have a radio transponder in my gravity tractor, the Earth can track me very precisely, and I know exactly the change in the orbit that I've made to the asteroid itself. You're reshaping the solar system without ever touching anything.
That ability to make controlled, precise movements is the gravity tractor's chief asset.
What you need to do is make sure that after you've deflected any asteroid, that it doesn't come back and hit you at a later point. What a gravity tractor allows you to do is to measure precisely exactly where it's going and to make tiny corrections to it so that you are very certain that it is not going to come back and hit you.
Yes.
Despite this advantage, the gravity tractor's major drawback is its very small force. Maybe too small to make a difference on a really big asteroid.
The gravity tractor takes a long time and a small asteroid to be effective.
Yes.
It would have to be much smaller than one.
Yes.
Perhaps 150
Yes.
meters, 300 meters. Something on the size of a Apophis or smaller.
Almost.
So if we're talking about a need for a larger asteroid and we don't have as much time to devote to it, then gravity tractor is probably not the method of choice.
But it turns out that the expected time between when you find that an asteroid impact is possible and when the actual impact is going to happen is many decades. So most of the time you have time to do such a thing.
By the time we get hit by something that big, we're going to have technology we can't even imagine. So there'll be something else, and not the gravity tractor. But if we had to do it now, we could do it. The point is that we can protect the Earth right now from asteroid impacts if we do our work.
To demonstrate the gravity tractor's effectiveness, the B612 Foundation aims to perform a test deflection on a non-threatening asteroid by the year 2015.
That's really important because if you find an asteroid that's uncomfortably close to hitting the Earth, and you decide that you have to deflect it, that's not a good time for your test flight. You want the test flight to be done beforehand so you work out any possible bugs.
The real trick is convincing NASA that it ought to demonstrate this capability before we end up having to use it. That's the problem. You're dealing with potentially millions of lives. It's simple and cheap to demonstrate it. So let's demonstrate it, and then we know.
This leads to the third and final step in stopping Armageddon. Who decides when and what to do if an asteroid has our name on it? There are three fundamental steps to stopping Armageddon. Detection and mitigation comprise the first two. The third, and maybe most challenging one of all, is who makes the decision when to act.
Right now, if we knew something were coming, I think it's likely that we would run around and not do anything in time. I think it's important to have basically sort of a manual. When the asteroid comes, what do we do?
Answering this question gains urgency as bigger and better telescopes come online, such as PAN-STARRS, an acronym for Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System.
PAN-STARRS is a University of Hawaii project that may well revolutionize the search for near-Earth objects. So the idea is to have a very wide field telescope with a huge field of view, and so they can go deeper, that is further out in space, and do it faster and cover much more of the sky every night. New programs like PAN-STARRS are going to increase the discovery rate, and so once we find the vast majority of these objects, we can easily track them 100 years into the future and see whether or not any of them are a problem.
Some experts predict that within the next 10 to 20 years, as many as 1 million near-Earth objects could be discovered. That's in addition to the more than 5,000 we've already found. Even with this exponential increase, it's still possible that a space object, perhaps a comet, could evade detection and hit us.
Comets can literally come out of the blue. They come from the outer reaches of the solar system, and they come in and they only have a few years or less to mount some kind of a deflection effort. So we don't know for sure that there's no comet heading our way. But comets don't fly by the Earth very much, and so we have a very good confidence that the predominant Earth hazard is coming from asteroids.
It is possible right now that we could be hit by an asteroid that we're unaware of. There are plenty of surveys going on right now, but they're geared for finding the 1 kilometer and larger asteroids. And so there are objects down to about 150 meters that we're particularly interested in, and we've only found a few percent of those. So there needs to be much more surveying in the future to find those potentially hazardous objects.
Right now, there are no protocols about what to do, when to act, and who makes these decisions in the event of an imminent Earth impact. So who has the authority and the capability to protect the Earth?
NASA's current charter is to find them, track them, and physically characterize them.
What
What are they made of? How are they put together? They don't yet have the charter to mitigate them. You can well imagine that an asteroid impact would be an international problem. So it's going to take some international cooperation to decide who does what and when.
International decisions are extremely slow. I think it's important that countries get together and talk about a protocol for how you would make such a decision. And if they begin their quibbling and arguing at the moment they find it, they may quibble and argue all of their time away before they have to do
The good news is this conceivably could unify the people of the world around something that affects all of us. And we could all work together to solve it.
The whole globe is at risk, not just any one country, and not just spacefaring nations. So while the spacefaring nations may end up with the responsibility to do something, who pays for it? Who says do it? Who handles the liability? We're working with the United Nations to get them prepared to make rapid decisions.
The Association of Space Explorers, an international organization of people who've flown in space, will submit recommendations for Earth impact preparedness to the United Nations in 2009. It's a first step. Until then, these groups serve as the best informed perspectives on the subject.
You need to think in terms of this is something that's important for Earth, it's important for the children, it's important for the people who come after us, and it's our willingness to prepare at this time and to give them the tools so that should the threat emerge later on, that there will be the resources to resolve that threat.
We may have another Tunguska, an event that is capable of wiping out an entire city, a city buster. However, on a scale of millions of years, perhaps 50 million years, we have the possibility of a life-extinguishing event. It's prudent to take efforts today because no one knows when the next impact will come. All we know is it's coming.
Strangely enough, I am not concerned about a potential impact in the near future. I know the probabilities. It is unlikely. But it's also unlikely that you will get on a plane and it will crash, and we still spend lots of money making planes safe. We have various ways of doing that. To me, this is almost an actual real problem. We're going to determine what the threat is and prevent it.
In the beginning, was darkness, and then, bang, giving birth to an endless expanding existence of time, space, and matter. Something that we've ever imagined, beyond the limits of our existence, in a place we call the universe. Are we alone? Or is there another Earth-like planet somewhere in the universe?
We have a fantastic goal yet for the next generation, which is to find planets that...
I believe we're right on the brink of having the technological capability to actually answer that humanity has been asking itself for the last 2,000 years.
Another Earth could be a quick 7-year star.
We're right on the threshold of being able to find these planets.
There could be twisted Earths. Can we find these other Earths as they float hidden in the billions of stars and trillions of planets of the universe? Is there another Earth in the universe? It's perhaps one of the oldest ideas since mankind was able to look up at the stars and wonder.
back when people were sitting around their campfires and looking up at the stars and imagining them as other campfires with other tribes around them.
What exactly do we mean by it should support Earth-like life?
When you boil it down, life needs three very basic things to exist. It needs a liquid medium of some sort to do its chemical reaction. We think water is the most likely liquid medium. It's very prevalent in the universe. We also need to look for the basic building blocks of life, the molecules that can help to put life together, the phosphorus in your DNA, and we need to have an energy source. It turns out that a terrestrial planet that has water on it pretty much has all of those things we need.
Not all planets capable of supporting Earth-like life would have to be carbon copies of our own Earth.
So you can think of it like a series of different types of houses. If you go into a city, for example, there will be grand mansions, and there will be smaller, more modest, two-bedroom homes. There will be city studios and skyscrapers and so on and so forth. All of these house people, all of these can help house life. And so we think about that when we go out into the universe looking. We're going to be looking for houses of all different kinds.
Exoplanets, that is, planets outside our solar system. The vast majority are gas giants, which are easier to find than small terrestrial planets like our Earth.
To build instruments to analyze those Earth-like planets, we have to anticipate ahead of time what the chemicals might be in that Earth-like atmosphere.
Rose is in the planet modeling business. She heads up the virtual planet laboratory at the University of Washington. The group, spreading across institutions around the country, builds worlds that may exist in the yet unexplored universe.
The virtual planetary laboratory allows us to simulate what planets might look like from space and what their environments might be like in advance of actually discovering these things out there in the universe. So it allows us to explore what planets might be like.
In the virtual planet lab, fantastic worlds can be built, like a science fiction novelist with a supercomputer as a writing partner.
So we can take something that's like the Earth, but we whip away the sun, and we replace it with a star of different size and type. So what we've done at the Virtual Planetary Laboratory is modeled planets that started out as around stars that were much hotter, with much stronger UV radiation, for example, than our own sun.
The models can produce bizarre alternate Earths, filled with plants, orange, even pitch black. Photosynthesis can vary greatly depending on the light of the star that's shining on it.
Planets around F-stars, for example, where the light from the star is much bluer. Plants there will tend to absorb more blue light, and so those plants will potentially be more likely to reflect red, orange, and yellow light, and so will appear red, orange, and yellow to us.
Plants on a world around weakness evolve their coloration to use every bit of energy.
If you go down to much cooler stars, M-stars, plants on planets around M-stars will absorb much photosynthesis into heat.
Then there's the water-world planet. A theoretical Earth, certainly a volatile M-type star, deadly radiation.
And how does life cope on the surface of that planet? Is it possible to have life even when you have a flaring M-star? It turns out that you can actually live about 9 meters underwater on a planet around an M-star and still escape the worst of the flares, but still have enough light to be able to do photosynthesis and survive.
And as future exploration missions are being drawn up, scientists are focusing on what it would take to detect the byproducts of life on a distant planet.
Life produces gases. Life stinks. You can smell it. And we're going to look for those gases with these high-resolution spectrometers.
So what we really need to do is take the light from another Earth-like planet and analyze it to find out what the chemical composition of that atmosphere is.
Finding the locations of planets is something that you see.
From its host star will be very cool. And so there's a domain in between that we sometimes call the Goldilocks zone or the habitable zone, where the temperature is just right. And by just right, I mean so that water would be in liquid form. And of course, it's liquid water that's the prerequisite for life.
When we look at other planets and we ask, could there be life on other planets? My first question is, could that planet support liquid water? Yes, I'm interested. No, I'm not interested. Show me the water.
Water is an amazing substance. We are frankly fortunate that the universe has something called water. It's the great cosmic cocktail mixer. Water is critical stuff that allows the
If a star is a hot O-type, the zone will be farther out from the sun. If it's a cool M-type, the zone will be closer in. And it even changes with time. Stars are not stable. Even our own comfy habitable zone here on Earth will change in a few million years when our sun grows older and much hotter. Current technology doesn't exist to take pictures of distant exoplanets. So astronomers use the solar system star as a sort of proxy for a planet, because both were formed from the same planetary disk of material.
If you don't go there and sample it, your experiment would melt.
It's up the effort by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory to come up with the next generation of instruments that will look at planets outside our solar system.
What we do is break the light up into different colors. 100 years ago by Newton, he discovered a prism in a ray of sunlight. It breaks it up into blue, green, red. And you look at these different colors and you discover something very startling all of a sudden. There are parts where colors are missing, and these missing colors are a fingerprint of the constituent of the sun that you're looking at.
With current technology, we can't directly view a spectrum of a planet outside our solar system. But eventually, more powerful instruments will allow us to use the same technique to fingerprint a planet for evidence of life.
That's how we know whether our planet has oxygen in our atmosphere, whether it has water vapor in the atmosphere, whether it has ozone, carbon dioxide, and nitrous oxide.
But nothing in the universe stays the same over time.
When our Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago, it had a very different atmosphere than it has now.
It's a challenge that Meadows and her team anticipate as they build their models of other Earth-like planets.
We would be very short-sighted to look just for an oxygen-rich planet at the same